All righty, here we go. We are recording. This is the Locksmith Security Network. I'm your host, Wayne Winton, and I have Jonathan and Allie along with Jamie Skinner here today. These were hands down when we posted the Slick Ride competition or contest. These two vans definitely got the most votes. So we figured, what the heck? Why just have one winner when we can have two? I definitely think you both won for sure. Like, you got a landslide on both of them. And it was actually Jonathan's request. I think you had slightly more votes, but it was your request to also have Jamie here as well. So, it's all good to have everybody here. And I'm glad that everybody is here. We'll go check out some of those photos here in just a minute. But Jamie, tell us a little bit about why you chose the vehicle you chose and, how many miles you plan to get out of it. Like, walk us through the thought process of pre-planning your build and then walk us through starting to set up that build.
Okay. So my originally we used box vans. We used GMC van body with a 10-foot like Spartan box on the back. We used those for years. They worked well. This was back in New Jersey, and then the heat or the cold would wind up getting to you in the back. And at that point, I noticed a lot more locksmiths were transitioning to like high roof vans, particularly Sprinter at the time. Then in 2015, Ford came out with the Transit. So anyone that knows me or has been following me for a few years knows my nightmare that I had with that. But I ordered a 2015 Transit diesel, high roof. I actually built that whole truck. And then from there, had nothing but problems with it. So everybody else was using Mercedes Sprinters. I wound up getting a heck of a deal during COVID. It was 0% interest. I literally traded that in, got my Sprinter, and was like, this is it. 4x4 for the snow in New Jersey. Outfitted that. The Sprinter, to me, was the best bang for the buck. I know a lot of guys out there, they think Sprinters are very expensive. The truck is expensive. The maintenance cost you a couple of bucks to do it, but as long as you maintain those trucks, oil changes, the differential, stuff like that, they're very good. The DEF system, unfortunately, with any diesel vehicle today, it's a common problem that you're always going to run into issues with the DEF systems. There are DEF delete kits out there for the Sprinters that work. I know a few locksmiths that have them on theirs once they're past the warranty. So I got a 2019 Sprinter originally when I was living in New Jersey. It was a 4x4. I took that down to Florida, opened up a location in Florida, got hired with the fire department right before Ian hit. That was Hurricane Ian that hit the west coast of Florida. I left my van down there to the neighbor saying, I've been here 30 years and we've never had flooding or anything here during a hurricane. I was stuck at my station for 15 days, finally released to come home to find out that my truck was flooded. So once that truck was flooded and fought the insurance for 6 months, I literally called my Mercedes dealer down there that I did work with and asked him, long shot, do you have a 4x4 170 extended high roof Sprinter? And figuring I'm not going to find a 4x4 in Florida. He says to me, hold on a second, let me check. He starts doing some typing on his computer. And he goes, I actually have one coming in next week that was just built. He goes, I actually have two of them. They're both 4x4. Come down and take a look at them. So I literally went down there, saw that one and the other one. This actually had all the bells and whistles in it. So this has the autopilot, the 360 surround camera view, front sensor, rear sensors, satellite radio. It's basically like driving an S-Class Mercedes on the inside. And the fact is, the majority of us are in the van driving, and the jobs take this much time, but the driving takes this much time. So you might as well be comfortable while you're driving in it. So to me, it was like, well, if I own a Mercedes, I might as well have all the bells and whistles. So this had it. I had to fight the insurance for 6 months to get this van finally and get a settlement with the insurance company. Once I had it, basically just to backtrack, everything that's in this van from the pictures that'll be up there is literally from the floor all the way to the ceiling is out of my old van, the black one that was destroyed. None of that got ruined in the hurricane. It was all the transmission and drivetrain. So when I wound up taking everything out and putting it in, the original setup back in 2019 was we used Adrian steel cabinets. The cabinets that are actually in there are out of one of my 1990 box trucks. That's how old those cabinets are, and they still work till today. So Adrian steel was the way to go. Literally bought the touch-up paint, repainted all the cabinets, and then I found the Craftsman pull-out trays, the red and black ones that they sold at Lowe's, and I was like, these will work really well. That's it right there with the I'm like, these will work really well for all the key fobs that we all have now in the automotive side of business. Mm-hmm. So wound up getting a couple of them and was like, this will work. And I actually did a whole stack going up the one side. And then I'm like, you know what? I have room in the back. I'm going to go buy more. And then I'm going to buy more. So as I posted this on Facebook doing my van build, everybody was like, where'd you get them? Where'd you get them? And then you'd see guys joking on, you can see them all the way in the back right corner there. And I actually stacked them on top underneath the cabinet on top of the regular Adrian steels. And then I did them there also. Mm-hmm. And literally all the guys were like, anybody that was near each other that like serviced the same areas, they would go to Lowe's and you'd see them typing on Facebook, oh, they're out of them. Nobody's got them, blah, blah, blah. And everybody was getting them. Because the good thing about them is that they're actually very lightweight. And they, as long as you mount them correctly, they're actually great cabinets. And DeWalt makes one that is a single draw, but it's got the depth in it. So if somebody was carrying knobs or levers or Adams Rate locks or something like that, or even a whole bunch of key stock, you could easily put those in there. And those weigh half of what an Adrian steel cabinet weighs or anything else. And then as far as the sidewalls go that are in there, those are Legend wall liners. They are not cheap. They're about $3,000, but they are insulated. And then behind that, I have R19 insulation, and I also have foil insulation against the actual outer wall perimeter. So the truck is very insulated. And if you look toward the top, you'll see my trunk line going down the center. That's a 50,000 rear BTU air conditioner and heater. So obviously in Florida now, I don't need the heat, but the air conditioning definitely works out very well in the summertime. So, and we ran, this van it has a trip light, 3,000 watt inverter in it with a toggle switch in the front for it to turn on. I run a deep cell marine battery under the passenger seat as a backup, which pretty much I can leave everything on all night and still come out to the truck in the morning and start it with no low power issues. That one is a little bit older. The picture that's there, that had my 3D Elite. I actually use a Triton now in the truck for a main key machine. That's a V6 4x4 diesel 170 extended high roof. That truck listed for $72,000. Mercedes now only makes all-wheel drive. They don't make an actual 4x4, but those trucks now are still going for about $70,000 completely loaded, and they're actually offering, I think, 0% financing now because they're trying to really push the van market now that they have stock again and there's no COVID issues or anything like that.
Mm-hmm. Right. So I want to pause for a second. And some of the biggest things that people ask about, like when we put these posts up, is the number one thing is getting power, right? Is getting power. And so I found when I was building my old the old E250 conversion van, if you ran wire from the front of the battery all the way to the back, it didn't really matter. Like you could buy a 3,000 watt power inverter, but if you wanted to get the actual maximum power out of it, you had to have a short run of cable and a backup battery very close, or you had to run like O gauge cable. And I remember a lot of this stuff because when we were in high school, we had all the sound systems, and you had to have those extra batteries to help run that stuff. And I kind of remember all that stuff when I was setting this up. So the keys to running that are really heavy gauge wire from point A to point B, very well insulated wire, because that wire is going to rub around and bounce around. And if it rubs through and arcs against the body, you're going to have a fire. You're going to burn that van to the ground. and just ask insurance companies, right? If they're not set up correctly. But the most important factor was having the additional battery. So that way it had something to take the shock. Like it takes the shock out of that shock load out of that first battery. It kind of acts like a reserve pond. So it takes that big shock load out of there. And then the main battery just goes ahead and keeps everything topped off as you're running or doing whatever you need to do throughout the day. Did you find a similar experience, or how do you have everything set up?
So the box trucks that we had, we would do that run all the way to the back, and we would use 0-aught cable for it just because of the drawdown that you'll have with the length of it. This inverter is actually behind my driver's seat. Okay. So, and then the run from the battery is literally maybe 4 feet, if that, because it goes from the passenger side seat underneath directly to the inverter.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, Mercedes puts their batteries in weird places too. So
the main battery is in the floor in between the seats, but I actually installed a second battery underneath the passenger seat and put that in a box. So that's what I basically run off of, is a deep cycle marine battery.
Yeah. And that's it too, is that deep cycle. Again, it takes that big hit. So when people think about it, like when you plug in a machine, like the way you have your van set up, you're using the electronics that would be set up at a shop, like, with regular 120 volt power, right? So you're really taking, with all the lights and with all the computer equipment and with all the key machines and everything that you're doing, you really rely on a lot of power, and that power inverter is probably one of the staple mark pieces of your build. Without that, a lot of the other pieces just don't fit. One of the questions I had is I've heard Mercedes builds in the older times. One of the reasons I kind of ruled that out was when I was building a van, maybe about 10 years ago, they said that Mercedes was running on a 24 volt system. Did you run into any issues with that, or did they change that?
I've never known of Mercedes running off a 24 volt system. Everything's always 12. The only thing that ever comes to my mind that was 24 volts were the 1030s and 1025s, which were the military pickups that were 24 volt because they were diesel. But other than that, everything has been 12 volt, and it's been direct DC. I do have a 60 amp inline breaker going directly from the battery to the inverter. God forbid there is a short out or anything or draw. It will break it there and not cause the van to catch fire or the cables to get hot and ground out.
Yeah, that's a great hint. That's a great tip too. And that, for anybody trying to do their own, I did the same thing. We did the exact same thing. We put 60 amp fuse from battery to backup battery, and then in between backup battery and the power inverter itself. That way, if there's any arc whatsoever, it will pop that fuse, and it may arc and it may have some sparks and stuff, but hopefully it'll pop that fuse and it won't burn the whole thing to the ground. That's just one other thing to keep in mind too, is that I've done it both ways. I've set up my own and ran my own cables and everybody kind of likes to do their own thing, especially locksmiths, where we think we can do everything, but one advantage to having another company do it, if you have an audio company, any place like Best Buy or anybody that does stereo installations, it's the same concept, really, is getting O-gauge cable from point A to point B and getting those electronics tucked away and hidden and secured and insulated very well. One thing to keep in mind that I did think about is, if there ever is a problem and you do have it professionally installed, you have somebody to go back to, right? If there is a problem and something happens, you can kind of go with the insurance company and be like, hey, I paid a professional to do this. And so if the van burns to the ground, you've got a finger to point and you've got somebody to hold accountable for that. Whereas if you did it and you did your own modifications and something happens, you might run into a problem with the insurance company. And guess what insurance company's job is? Not to hand you money. That's what I found after multiple vehicle wrecks. And it sounds like after you've found that out with your flood as well. Insurance companies don't like writing checks, and pretty much the only way to get them to write a check is to basically hound and badger them and just outgrind them, because you're going to get no, and no. And then eventually I'll get an attorney or somebody else involved, and we'll really get down to the nitty gritty. And they'll realize, what, this person isn't going to go away. 60% or 70% of the people will have already given up, and they're going to realize this person's not giving up. hey, at the end of the day, they're going to have to abide by that coverage, and they may drag it out and red tape it as long as possible. But at the end of the day, if you're entitled to it and your policy says that you need to have it and you're covered, then eventually they will cut you a check. Is that kind of what you experienced as well?
Yeah. So I had an inland marine policy on the truck, but the inland marine policy only covers anything that is not bolted down. So that would be key programmers, keys that are in the drawer, stuff like that. And none of that stuff was damaged. So the thing that I found out, and I do have commercial insurance through Progressive, is to double check your policy. There are two types of policies that you can have. You can have a stated value policy or an agreed value policy. When I got my insurance originally, I told the insurance agent I want the truck insured for $150,000. If the truck sinks in a canal or it burns up, you're cutting me a check for $150,000, because that to me gave me the ability to get new cabinets if needed, get a new truck, get it lettered, get it outfitted. And when it wound up coming down to the truck being destroyed in the hurricane, I found out that I had a stated value policy, which is based off depreciation and mileage and everything else. So the agreed value policy will cost you more money, but if you can get your insurance company to do an agreed value, that will have a set number that they can't deny. And that works a lot with boats. Like people that have boats, they'll do an agreed value, because if the boat sinks, they need to cover the cost of the boat or whatever. But I found that out the hard way. I did hire a lawyer. Guy swore to me up and down he was going to get me more money for my van, everything else. He got zero. Progressive would not budge with anything. Thankfully, actually, to the locksmith community out there, when I posted it, everybody got together and they raised about $10,000 for me, which helped me put the down payment on the van to finally get it. Because between the insurance and fighting with them for 6 months, I was working out of my Subaru. I was a trunk slammer. I was a 24/7 locksmith for 6 months because I had no van, and I felt like I lost my place in life, because here I am, have this big fancy van with all this lettering on it, and now I'm driving around in a Subaru trunk slamming because I had to do what I had to do. And to bring your point about hiring somebody to do it, there are guys out there, or say locksmiths, who have multiple vans and then they're going to put another van on the road. That's something where a lot of guys will sub it out to either an upfitter that's going to do the cabinets, take care of doing the electric and stuff. But the majority of us, if we're working on doors, we're working on frames, we're doing electronic access control, which is all stuff that I have background in and doing. You're like, I want to build this the way I want to build it. If I strip a screw out, I want to be the one that stripped the screw out, not look at it and say, wait a minute, these guys just cut the screws. They didn't put them in correctly. So, but the problem with that is that we all know our businesses are based off of doing jobs and making money. Because if we're not working, we're not making money. So you'll get something done in the truck, and you'll put in your mind, I'm going to have this done in 5 days. And then 5 days later, you're like, well, I got the cabinets in and I got the electric ran with an extension cord, but I really need to finish this. But you've been running out trying to make money with the new van, because you're like, I got to make money. I got a payment now. So eventually it gets down to the point where you have to weigh the options of whether or not, hey, can I let it sit for a week and pay somebody to do it? And then there's other times that you sit there, my son's mother would tell me when I'd cut the grass back home in New Jersey, and I literally had a 150 by 150 lot. Now I got over an acre, but she'd be like, Jim, why are you out there weed eating and cutting the grass, spending 3 hours doing that, when you could pay somebody $40 and you could have made keys to 2 cars right now and made $500? And I was like, all right, you're right. You know what? Why? It's easier just to spend that money and go make more money than it is to sit there and do it yourself. But, for me personally, I build all my vans. My vans in New Jersey and down here, I've done all the outfitting myself. If guys are looking to build a van and they are on a tight budget, I definitely suggest Facebook Marketplace. If you type in Adrian Steel Cabinets, you'll find guys that are plumbers or electricians or anything like that, and they're selling those cabinets for $100, $200 a piece. And Adrian Steel is quite expensive. So is Ranger. But you can find them, touch them up, clean them up, and put them in your van. And like I said, the majority of my cabinets are almost 30 years old. There's nothing that brand new that's Adrian Steel in there except for a couple of them. Everything else came out of my old box vans because that's how long the cabinets have lasted.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I get that. And these are all great points. And we're covering so much right here. And that's why I really feel this podcast is something this industry needs. We don't have a lot of different options and a lot of people really talking about this. You hear people talk about it in the groups. You'll hear people talk about it on Locksmith Nation and the automotive groups and all the different ones out there. But there really hasn't been a whole lot of in-depth, like, let's take that insurance and let's dive into that in depth. And unfortunately, what happens is people learn the hard way, like you had to learn, and you only learn about what's not covered after you need to make a claim. And then you find out that you're not actually covered. And the insurance companies, I mean, I don't want to think negatively about anybody, but I'm pretty sure there's something to that. Like, they kind of understand that you may not know what is actually covered and what's not covered, and define bolted down. I definitely had to do a bunch of that. I had one of my trucks wrecked 3 times. And, it got to the point where I would do this. I would actually invoice and bill my own company for my own time building and altering and setting up that van, because if I did that, then I had receipts and I had logged pictures, time, photographic evidence, and an invoice that I paid myself. So when I needed to make that claim, I could show the dollar amount of the investment that it would take for all of the customization and the cabinets and the power inverters and all of the stuff that I did to it. There's a tangible dollar amount attached to that now with a paper trail that you can then submit to the insurance company for 2 reasons. 1, for the payout when you need to get paid out if it is a walkaway total. And 2, what they tried to do to me is, I'm like you, I'm a fan of diesel engines. I had 2 Ford 7.3 liter diesel engines, one of the biggest motors ever put in a residential or non-commercial vehicle.
God rest that motor. It was the best one Ford made. That was
diesel. Oh man, it was. And I actually had my old beast mode truck. When I sold it, it had 500,000 miles on it, and it's still on the road to this day. That vehicle had been wrecked 3 times and still just kept on chugging. And I mean, you couldn't kill that thing. But one of the things they tried to do to me when it got wrecked and it only had about 185,000 miles is they wanted to write it off. They wanted to just pay me the depreciated value for it. But I had to argue and yell and scream and jump up and down and say, if you want to write it off, here's the custom wheels, here's the custom tires, here's the bumpers, here's the customization, here's all these receipts that I had for all the customization done to it. And you need to cover that as well so that gets put into the new vehicle. And all of a sudden they had a magic change of heart and they decided to get that vehicle repaired. They had to end up putting a new axle in it. Somebody sideswiped me. We kind of did this number, and the driver fell asleep in a car, and they clipped my rear axle, and it bent the rear axle, and it bent some of the leaf springs in there. And so they just wanted to write the whole thing off and total it out. And I was jumping up and down screaming, no way. I've got cell phone boosters. I've got, all the wiring. I've just got it set up the way that I wanted it. I don't want to check for $5,000 or, $10,000 or whatever they wanted to give me. I want my truck back and I want you to fix it, to the point where I would have bought it back and then fixed it myself if that would have been the case. So that is a huge tip, is log your hours, take tons of photos of what you are actually bolting down, because that will come into play if you do ever have to make an insurance claim. What is technically bolted down? What is bolted to that vehicle? What is considered part of that vehicle? What is covered under the automotive policy? And then also what is covered under the inland marine policy. And even though it's an inland marine policy and called that, it has nothing to do with boats. It has to do with the additional vehicle or the additional equipment on your vehicle. And that includes your programmers, that includes your key machines, that includes your key stock, a walk away total. I mean, if it drives off a bridge and lands in the water, like you said, you need to have that set amount. And much like you said, $150,000, that's really what it takes to rebuild one of these. Not to mention, you are going to be running out of a Subaru, or when mine happened, I ended up having to throw 2 GSA containers in the back of my F-150. I ratcheted them down and still run calls. You can't stop the cash flow. And unless you have a shop with 5 or 6 vehicles and a fleet, you just can't do that. And that also taught me the value of a turnkey backup vehicle, right? When a vehicle is down, whether it's routine maintenance for an oil change or whether it's a pretty major overhaul, like you need to do a turbo or you got to do something pretty major in there, you're losing money twice. You're losing money on the cost of the repair that is happening and taking place. And then you are also losing money on the calls that you could have been running in that time. And I also learned that lesson the hard way. And my mechanic actually laughed at me. I started out with a $1,000 Subaru that I wrapped myself and just had, different little things in there to continue to run calls. I actually had a tow bar that I would actually put on there and tow it down with my van to the mechanic shop and then drop the truck off for the afternoon and go continue to run calls in my little tow bar $1,000 Subaru, because I could easily make that $1,200, $1,500, $2,000 a day that otherwise I would have had to put off and just flat out lost. So those are all key features that I really hope a lot of people take away when they're listening to this podcast and they're listening to this interview here. You can hear that it's not just me, it's you, and it's also Johnathan as well. And perhaps, Johnathan, do you want to just jump in here and maybe touch on some of the things that we've talked about? I'm sorry, we have a lot of people in the podcast, and I'm not trying to I want everybody to have their input in on this. Yeah. Just there's so many things that I want to really pull apart and expand upon and zoom in on, because I think it's so important.
Yeah. So let's see here. I mean, yeah, you touched on the all the insurance stuff. We have some previous experience with the agreed value policy, like Jamie mentioned. That was like at the top of the list. We actually even went as far as, even in like the sprinter groups, some of these other people talk about it with like their RV conversions. They'll actually get the van appraised. So that's the beginning of, I don't know if that, say, helps with the agreed value policy, but that's the way that we did it. So we got the van appraised by a private licensed, appraiser, and then we gave that to the insurance company, and then now we have the agreed value policy.
Mm-hmm. That has every single receipt possible of anything bolted down. Plus also, like you said, Wayne, we did our hours and like basically our service through one of the companies that we work with, and we were able to give them a receipt like, this is how long it took to do it, us two working Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays, 10-hour shifts for about 9 months. So we're like, you can write that too in there.
Yeah, so. Definitely. And that's so important, because people don't really understand unless you've done it to go run. I mean, I talk about this a little bit in the book that I got coming out. But like at one point, my day would start at 5:30 in the morning. I would get up, get ready, get shower, work out, do all the stuff I got to do, take the kids to school, and then start running calls all day. And then do a full day's load worth of work. And then that was when we had a shop. And then when we were getting these other vehicles ready, like I had to paint the ambulance. I didn't want to pay to have it painted. It was going to cost more than the whole thing was worth. So I did it all myself. I bought an air compressor. And so when I get done running a 10-hour day doing my normal job, then I got to go and start working on that and work on that till 11, 12 o'clock at night, come home, maybe, get a couple bites full of food, wash it down with a beer, and wake up and start doing it all over again. Like that is a grueling day. And for us owner operators, we're the only ones that are going to do it. Nobody else gives a shit about your business enough to want to be able to pull those hours. Nobody cares about it. But we do. It matters to us, and we know that it needs to get done in order to make that next buck, and how much nicer it's going to be to have that vehicle the next day. So always log your hours, document it, take time, pictures, time photo stamp, at least do something. And like I said, if you can bill yourself, I can pay me as an independent contractor. I can invoice myself. I can invoice my company. Heck yes, you can. Absolutely, you can.
I just wanted to touch on something that Jonathan brought up also. So one of the key points that or issues I had with the insurance was they gave me a price on the van when it was totaled. Mm-hmm. And they proceeded to ask me, well, what are you going to do with your equipment in the back of the van? Mm-hmm. And I said, what do you mean? That those are my key machines. Those are my programmers. Those are my cabinets. What do you mean? I'm taking them out. And they said, well, the price that we gave you is based off of all the equipment in the back of the van. And I said, I'm sorry, what? And they said, well, because it's permanently affixed to a wall or the floor, it's considered part of the automobile policy. So I had to actually give them $6,500 out of my insurance settlement to buy my cabinets back that I already paid for, just to get them back so that I can put them in my other van.
It is amazing how much of a scam. Like, you have to have it, and it can be company. Like, it can put a company, it can bury a company, it can close you up. It is amazing how much of a scam the insurance companies are.
Yeah. Wow. Oh. And even when we were just searching just the different policies in general, I mean, when I was bringing up these terms, like what Jamie was saying, inland marine insurance and these additional umbrella policies and all this other stuff, I mean, they didn't even know what I was talking about. We had to ask multiple people to get to the point where we were interacting with somebody who even knew what we were asking for.
And I don't think a lot of people know about the inland, like, insurance and stuff like that. I think that should be one of the things that most locksmiths know about, just for their, tools and kits and all that stuff like that. Programmers. I don't think a lot of people know about that.
I think, Wayne, since you're the president of ALOA, this is maybe something ALOA might want to tackle in a newsletter about are you really covered, and maybe come up with some keywords to look for in your policy, or what to look for when you're going to insure a van. Again, this doesn't apply to the trunk slammer, right? Because they don't even have regular insurance half the time.
Or license, whatever.
Right. And for those of us that have invested $3,000 in lettering, $15,000 in cabinets, another $250,000 worth of keys and programmers and everything else, to find out the hard way, as Jonathan has and I have and you have, that you think you're walking away going, take it. I don't care. I'm going to have a brand new van, brand new programmers, brand new cabinets. I'm going to have diamond truffles across my ceiling. And to find out that you're not going to have anything, and you're not going to get anything out of that van unless you pay for it to buy it back from them is a culture shock, especially when you have commercial insurance and you think, I'm doing it the right way. I'm not driving my van around with a personal policy with a magnetic sign, or saying, oh, no, it's personal use. It's personal use. I literally went out and got commercial insurance for my van and paid a ton of money. It ain't cheap. But at the end of the day, I was still almost in the hole. I almost wound up being that I wasn't going to be able to afford to even get my stuff back from them to put it in the van, into the new van.
Yeah. And I hope everybody does walk away with this. If this podcast helps one person, we were talking about that a little bit earlier too. Just it was quite a feat just to even get everybody here on this podcast, because everybody's so busy. Like, I came in from doing jobs. Everybody else here came in from doing jobs. But that's the only way that you're going to get that boots on the ground, real information and real training and real, situation awareness. And you can learn from our scars. Like Jamie and Jonathan and we got deep scars on our back from the painful lessons that we have learned from having decades in the industry, to be able to tell everyone and let you know, if everybody walks away from here and at least goes and checks your insurance policy, call up your agent, make an appointment, make a note right now, put it in your phone, in your calendar, to contact your insurance agent tomorrow and have them send you over everything that's covered. Say, if my van drives off a bridge and lands in a lake tomorrow, what happens next and what am I covered for? And then take that information. We are not smart enough. I am not smart enough to understand all the legalese nonsense that they put in that policy contract, and they do that intentionally. So the next best suggestion is to take that and turn it over to your attorney. If you don't have an attorney, any company, the first two things you should have is a good attorney and a good CPA. Those two people don't cost you money. They're going to save you thousands, tens of thousands, and possibly one day hundreds of thousands of dollars for situations just like this. Have your attorney, or even have LegalZoom. If you have like a LegalZoom account or a Legal Shield or whoever you use, you could even have ChatGPT or Grok or whatever AI look over your policy and get a better idea of what is actually covered and what a walk-away coverage looks like. It's not if you get in an accident, it's when, with as many miles as we drive. I'm sure you guys can attest to this too. I've got a 2020 F350 with the diesel engine, and I just turned over 301,000 miles to give everybody an idea how much we're all on the road. I'm sure your guys' vans have significant mileage on them too. Jamie, what are your guys' vans sitting at?
2023 Sprinter, brand new with 0 miles. I currently have 176,000 on it.
Nice.
2024, brand new. I think it had 200 miles on it, maybe when we got it. It just recently got put into service though, but it's got 10,000 miles on it already.
That's awesome. Yeah. We're definitely doing 50, 60,000 plus a year. And that's just on the work vehicle. That's not including personal stuff too. So with that many miles, it's not even your driving. It's everybody else. Every accident that I've been in, it's been either wildlife or somebody hit me. Like I said, somebody fell asleep at the wheel and we didn't head on, but he head on. I was coming this way, he was coming this way, and then he ran into the back axle and literally ripped the back axle out of an F350. If you've seen the size of the steel that has to do with that, that's a massive impact. You know, his engine was sitting in the passenger seat, to give you an idea. It was pretty nasty, but it's gonna happen. So you need to be prepared for it, not if, but when.
Now, I was talking to an insurance agent early on, just with, when we first picked up the van, we got it from Mercedes-Benz of Catonsville in Maryland. We just put it on just a standard policy, just to get it back and whatnot. But when we were actually, I asked the same question. What happens in a walk away, accident? It's a total, like, what is this thing like actually worth? And the part that was crazy, I wasn't expecting this. They basically said, yeah, even though your window sticker was 83 and change, we would give you the insurance payout would reflect the base vehicle, which is a white low roof 2-wheel drive. And they said it was something like, I don't know, 53,000 or something. And I was like, excuse me? I'm like, that doesn't even make sense. And they're like, yeah, that's how it works. Yep. I'm like, well, okay, but all right. So needless to say, again, just sort of driving the point home, probably skip the standard policy, do all the things that Jamie and Wayne are talking about.
Yeah.
Well, we're sitting here talking about the build, right?
Yeah.
And everybody's concerned about the cabins and the electric, right. But the very first thing is you're going to put all this blood, sweat, and tears into it, only to find out that it was worth nothing if, God forbid, when you do get an accident or the vehicle gets stolen or it catches fire and you find out you have absolutely nothing now.
Yeah. Exactly. So again, don't wait. Do it here. Be the one that does take the action. Don't be the one who has a sob story and a GoFundMe account at the end of the day, right? That's what's going to happen. And there's nothing wrong with that. I see that all happen all the time. But I am a person who doesn't like to leave my fate in other people's hands. I want to make sure that we have our hands around it. I want to be as educated and prepared as I can possibly be for any event that can happen along the way. And now that we're discussing it and talking about it, and I will 100% make it a president's column, just like I drew attention to the locksmiths who have been killed and murdered over this year so far. There's been 3 incidents that have been highly publicized already. I made the most recent issue that just came out. We did an entire podcast on it with Rob. We came up with a 10-step plan. So it's not just talk about talk. It's actually creating an action plan, getting things implemented, having a text message that automatically goes out saying, hey, our technicians are going to be equipped with GPS vehicles, live monitoring, and video and audio surveillance. So that's going to start deterring people who have bad intentions, letting somebody know where you're going to be, getting a photo ID and knowing who you're dealing with before you actually get out to that location, and just doing all those different things, setting up dash cams, I'm putting a $3,000 surveillance system on my technician's van so he can have 360-degree 4K cameras with an in-van inverter. That's how serious we're taking it. And I'm doing that to set an example. And I will absolutely put a president's column together that addresses, are you insured? Are you covered? Yeah. And are you covered with what you actually need so that we can bring this to the industry? I'll have keynotes publish it. I'll even probably write an article over there for Locksmith Ledger as well, so we can get this information out. And both of those articles and anything that we do, I'm going to have that link back to this podcast so that we can really get this information out there and it really resonates with people. And there's no excuse not to get this information now. It's in podcast form. It's on all the social media platforms. We just talked about how much time we're sitting in our vans. You can pull this up on Spotify or YouTube podcasts and you can listen to it and you can take action here and now today. First step is contact your policyholder, see what you've got, see what's covered in multiple different incidents. What happens if there is a flood? What happens if you get robbed? What happens if your van gets broken into? And that's where, even expanding a little bit further on the business side of things, having overlapping policies can only help you. Meaning, when I was going over that too, if your van gets broken into, you might have coverage through your shop. Your business insurance might have some coverage on that as well. When I was moving safes, I had a $10,000 stair climber, and I specifically had a policy just on that. And lo and behold, there was one day where a strap broke and it flopped out onto the road. And luckily, I was able to recoup that cost of that, because obviously it was badly destroyed, and they ended up paying out. And I have had a pretty decent track record once you know how the game is played. If you don't understand the rules, then you're not going to win that game. You're going to lose every time. So you have the option to understand those rules a lot better. And it starts here by bringing awareness. And the next step is you actually taking the action, getting your policy, understanding it, running it through a chat GPT or an AI program to say, dumb this down and speak normal language, and then taking it to a proper attorney and making sure that they understand how it's set up and that it's properly covered too, and have it set up on auto pay. Because if you miss one payment, that's going to be the month you have a problem. I guarantee it. It's Murphy's Law. And you can hear how painful that situation would be. We put our blood, sweat, and tears into these things, and to just wad it up and walk away and have nothing, that is so devastating. I couldn't even imagine.
That actually, that did happen to us, unfortunately, before the Sprinter. I was working out of a Sienna. Sorry. But it was pretty well outfitted. I was pretty proud of it, but I was out of light. The lady blew the light. She hit, cross traffic was coming, and the van got totaled. It was a total loss. And I don't know. Again, the van was gone. I'm just sort of standing there, and I'm like, well, what now? Completely unprepared. Completely, I just wasn't expecting it. Who's expecting an accident, right? But
it was Friday the 13th.
It was Friday the 13th.
That does not happen.
So that, having a backup vehicle is definitely something worth considering. I keep thinking about like a first gen XB, maybe like a Scion XB. I don't know why. I think it would just, I don't know if we could afford to build like a literal duplicate clone of Klaus. I don't think that's happening.
No, that's not going to happen. But a smaller vehicle would be nice. Like, you worked out in my little Suzuki SX4 for like 9 months almost.
Yeah. So just like what Jamie was saying, he was working out of the Subaru after the Sienna went. We're still trying to figure, waiting to get paid out by insurance and all that stuff. Yeah.
And Monday comes, we still got to get to work.
Still to get jobs done.
Yep.
I was working out of a Suzuki SX4 hatchback.
The little car.
It was extremely difficult. I just couldn't, it's just constantly, oh, I left this programmer at home. I left this key machine, you couldn't fit all of it. So
yeah.
It's kind of scary to think about, like, at this point now, what would happen, like without the vehicle that has all the cables, all the keys, all the machines, you got everything dialed in. You take that away. I mean, you're kind of got your hands tied behind your back. You can't do much. It's a very critical component.
It's
of
humbling.
the thing, especially if you don't have a brick and mortar. If you're strictly mobile, I mean, that's the whole thing.
Yep. Yeah. It cripples you. It literally cripples you, and you don't realize how much you've advanced and how far you've come until you have to step back in time a little bit and be like, oh, this is what it used to be like when I was running out of the crap wagon. It definitely happens. In fact, that's why, like, I've got my truck. I actually ended up just getting my technician a 2025 Transit, all-wheel drive, all the fun stuff. And then I've still got an old Triton V10 E350 2001, and it's sitting there, but it is a turnkey. You can jump in it, and you can go run calls, and you can go make money specifically for that incident. We talk about this being a van build, so I'd like to get into one of the videos here. But before we do that, one other really big thing that I'd like to make sure that people understand too is a safety cage. The safety cage between the back of the van and the front of the van. There's a bunch of different names, baffles, safety cage, stuff like that. One incident that literally happened to me is I had bought this brand new Transit for my technician, and the first thing I did, very first thing before he could even do anything with it, is I took it to my mechanic and I said, we need to put a safety cage in here. I want you to install it professionally. He actually used to work on vehicles that would get customizations for oil field outfitting. So he'd literally work on semis and deck them out and like stuff for like the railroad vehicles that you see drive on the train tracks and stuff. So this is literally what he did. And it's lucky that he's one of my good friends. And so we put the power inverter in, and the first thing we did was put that cage in. It was not even 30 days. It still had the temp tags on the van. And my technician was coming home from a late night from Meeker, and the bear was in the road, and whap, hit the bear first thing, boom. And you could literally see where if he didn't have that cage, that safety cage there, some things definitely lurched forward and probably would have came back and smacked him right in the back of the head. So having that safety cage and that safety baffle there is definitely high on that priority list. We do tend to get so sucked into the bells and whistles, the power, the programmers, the tools, but really focus in on safety first and build that into your plan, and then kind of build some of the other things out around it. So I'm going to add this YouTube link that you sent me here, and we'll go through that and we'll watch that. And if you want to pause or something, or you want me to pause for a second, just let me know and we'll go from there. Okay. So Mercedes, and you said you named this Klaus, right?
This is Klaus.
That's what you said. Yeah. Okay. So I love naming my vehicles too. I've had Beast Mode, the Kraken, and the Terminator, and a couple others.
Very cool.
Yeah, it's definitely, we take pride in it, and the naming is definitely important as well. And you basically mirrored this off of one of Jamie's builds, right?
Yeah. So I have So I want to say it was 2023. The 2023 Yankee Locksmith convention. Jamie was teaching some classes, and at one point he had his van inside like the main part, like on the show floor type of thing. But it was before the trade show, and he took the class. We went out to the van for something, and it was like my first. He had the electric slider, and the thing opened up, and it was just like, it just left such a huge impression on me. I was so impressed with the build, and I was like I'm like, oh my God, look at this thing. And again, it was, I have another, Jamie's for sure like a mentor to me, but like also as well, Bob O'Keefe from Lexington Lock and Key.
He helped a lot with a lot of pictures of his stuff.
He's a big Sprinter guy himself. So I did reach out to him. I was asking him some questions, and, both of these guys, they had Sprinters, and I'm like, okay, I'm kind of getting into this world. I have a background in, other things, dealer services and whatnot. Mm-hmm. But I'm like, clearly the Sprinter is like the benchmark here. All the guys that are really established, that really know what they're doing, they're driving Sprinters. And that was it. I was sold. I'm like, this is the way I want it. If the opportunity ever comes. I thought I was going to keep the Sienna for 300,000 miles. I was like, I'll never, we may never get to the Sprinter. Yeah. And then obviously it got wiped out. And I says, Allie said,
I say go for it.
Now or never.
I'm like, just do it. If we're gonna do it, just do it.
But yes, it is to some extent. It is the genesis of it was seeing Jamie's van for sure.
Cool.
I'll to touch on your point. When I bought my first Sprinter, the guy Doug who sold it to me, as a sales pitch comment, he said, there's just something about you being in a work van and showing up to somebody's house in a Mercedes.
Yep.
And I was like, you New Jersey car salesman, you like that. Yeah. So, and dealing with the clientele that I deal with, especially in high-end European cars, showing up to houses that are on the water on the west coast of Florida that are $30 million, and you're showing up in an $80,000 van with the tires armor-alled, with the truck clean, and you're showing up in a Mercedes. Right off the bat, they're going, well, this guy must know what he's doing, because
he must know what he's doing. Exactly.
Brand new Mercedes.
Yeah.
And it definitely says something. And it's not knocking the Ford Transit. It's not knocking the ProMasters or anything like that. Everybody has their own thing. But to me, it was like, if you're going to do it, you might as well go all in. Just don't half-ass it. Just go in with it. I mean, the worst that's going to happen is you're going to fail. But you're not going to do that when you put this much time and investment into it. But real quick, Jonathan, what color is your van?
Oh man, I knew this was going to come.
I want, because my other half is out there, and I want to hear what color you say it is.
Okay, so
because I know what the factory color code is and what it's called, but I know what color it is to me. But I want to hear what you think your color of your van is.
So this is actually, according to Mercedes, with the options list. I don't have the RPO in front of me, but it is considered pebble gray.
What is it called? Pebble gray.
And it hardly is even a shade of gray. It's more like a putty tan, like OD tan type of color. Kind of like
so I say it's desert tan, like a military vehicle, like a Humvee.
Yeah.
My code is stone gray is the color code on my van. Okay. And I swear it's tan, but my other half will tell me your truck is gray. It's gray, and I'm like, it is not gray. It is desert tan. It's like
I see tan.
Yep,
I see tan. I've also been.
I had to ask you that because I wanted to see if it was just my eyesight that only saw the tan, or somebody else saw the same thing and they call it a completely different color, but it is tan. Honey, you hear that? His is tan too.
All right, let's jump into this thing here. You can narrate too if you want to tell us what's going on.
Yep. So there you go. The electric assist steps. I think it was those are amp research. Let's see. Yep. So it's a 2024 Mercedes Sprinter 2500. 140, did I already say that? 144 high roof, all-wheel drive, 2-liter turbo diesel. I think it's got a 9-speed transmission. It's fully loaded. It has every conceivable option. Anything that they offer. Swivel seats, the leather seats, the upgraded head unit. It even has like the rear, like from the front, it has, of course, it's got the electric slider. I had to have it once I saw Jamie's. Just from there, you can see the real quick there. If you go back, maybe you can just spot it.
What is it?
You can see the inverter right about there. So it is we are running a let's see here. It's a 2.
Is that it right there?
Nope. Keep going. It'll zoom into it. There
Right
you
there.
go.
There it is.
So
there it is.
yeah, 2 kilowatt Victron inverter, 2-watt cabling. And we discussed like where it might end up going. Should it go all the way in the back of the van? Should it go? It could have gone anywhere. We just decided we're like, keeping the cabling short.
Yep.
And all that. And Jamie knows that, as well, all the electrics for the Sprinters, most of what's going on is happening directly underneath the driver's seat. So,
and I think a key point is talking about the plug holders that we put in.
Mm-hmm.
So that literally will keep it from rubbing and moving because it actually holds it somewhat in place.
Yeah. So yeah, the cables themselves are 2-watt, but it's marine grade, double jacketed. And as well, if you look at the pass-throughs going through the seat base, it's supposed to be like a waterproof, like a watertight connection. Yeah. It's a gland. So we pass through the cable, and then you sort of you cinch it up. It actually grabs the cable, but it also prevents it from chafing, rubbing, moving, anything. So. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Very important. Very, very, very important. Yeah, you definitely don't want to mess around because look at how thick that cable is. I mean, O-gauge cable, you're talking about like way thicker than a heavy-duty extension cord. Like go to your audio store, go to an electronic supply store, and look at what O-gauge cable is. The reason you need it is because DC power doesn't like to travel through wires very well. You need to have a thick gauge wire in order to carry that proper voltage and, more importantly, the amperage behind it so that it gets the proper power that it actually needs.
Sure.
And then you'll notice right above it, we do have a fire extinguisher. We have one in the front and in the back. And it's a certain one so it does not ruin electrical as opposed to.
This is, hopefully I'm doing the right thing, but there's like a difference between the what is it, AB extinguisher and an ABC extinguisher. So I guess the ABCs, if you use those, if you spray it on it's more effective at like putting out fires, but it's also highly corrosive. So I don't know.
Yeah. So what you're saying is if the fire happens, then you go to put the fire out with the fire extinguisher, and you're successful in doing so. Then the contaminants inside the fire extinguisher might destroy the electronics and the sensitive components that you're actually putting out. Now, hopefully you got the right insurance. Hopefully you get a check for everything new, but you might be like Jamie and you might be buying your own stuff back. And in that case, you might not want to ruin it. So that would be worth putting into ChatGPT or doing a little bit of research and saying what kind of vehicle fire extinguisher would be rated best for electronics. So that's a good point. Good stuff. And you never think about this stuff until, again, after the fact. So go ahead and keep telling us about this thing here.
Oh, yeah. So let's see here. The cabinets were custom built by Aluminum Cabinet Company out of Minnesota. They were all spec'd out by Allie and myself. The color codes and everything. I've had multiple people ask me what the option code is for the cabinets from Mercedes because it looks that, like, I guess, believable that it would be like a factory option or something. And then we're just kind of going through the machines here.
I don't even see any brass. Like, you must have taken this right after you built it.
No, we did a little clean, just a little cleaning.
I don't see one brass shaving on that table.
Yeah, it's only for show. We don't even use it, So, but yeah, the pin tool. We made up like a little right angle adapter on the jaw.
Computer, monitor, soldering stuff.
Yep, all the Weller WX Smart series. It's got the hot air station. It's got all that stuff for sure. Yep. Do your bench work.
Very cool.
Bench power supply.
That was key with doing like European jobs and stuff like that. Just having something that's steady. So
pack out stuff.
So the pack outs, just so you know,
fun story. Yeah.
Those are all European pack outs. And
That's
then
weird.
we also took all the handles off the American pack outs, so everything is black on black.
Oh, so you did it so it's black. So where would you order European blacked out Milwaukee pack out?
So there are groups on Facebook. I didn't have great luck on there. I ended up just bailing. At one point, you could get some of them on Amazon, a U.S. Amazon account, but I got mine from eBay, believe it or not, and the pricing was just as competitive.
Yeah.
Oh,
So,
cool. That's good.
Yeah.
And then one other thing I'm seeing right here that we paused on, there's that other fire extinguisher. So again, this can be used. If you have a fire, it's likely going to be in the front and probably associated with the power inverter. That's the
Sure.
biggest cable going to be running there. But then you have one in the back. So if you can't get to the front one, you do have one in the back, and it looks like it's attached to the door, so you can fling the door open and access it as well. But here's another thing that all too often gets forgot about, and that is
first aid kit.
yeah.
Yeah,
And that looks like it's
I
the
mean-
Milwaukee pack out one, or did you build it?
No, it is. So it's yes, it is a real Milwaukee pack out first aid, but even in the European market, the Milwaukee first aid kit is still red with black accents. So we actually just took a regular European case and moved all the labeling and all the internals over. Yeah, we're fancy.
No, that's cool. That's cool. I like hearing the little tidbits. Like, this is the stuff that people are missing, and this is the little comments, and these are the little things that people, that they would love to ask, but they don't get a chance to sometimes.
That's Friday date night, putting everything together.
Build the van. All the extension cords are nice and tucked away. Very cool.
Yep.
Yeah, I would highly recommend too. Anybody that does not currently have a first aid kit in your van, that would definitely be something super high on that priority list, along with that safety. I can't count the amount of times installing access control. I've had the drill, a Milwaukee 18-volt drill. When that thing locks up, there's so much torque, it'll tweak your wrist. It'll slap you in the face. You cut yourself on holes trying to run wire. I mean, there's just a million different things to where a good first aid kit will definitely come in handy.
And, prior to that, for me, being up in Massachusetts, it would have been electrical tape and a Dunkin' Donuts napkin. So I was ready to upgrade from that.
With some super glue. Oh, even a hand wave trash can. Look at that.
Yes.
Oh,
That's
man.
our main station for paper towels, trash, and stuff like that, just to keep things as clean as possible. And this right here, if you want to pause it for those drawers, that is the main, that's where all the money is right there. It has 610 key spots. It is big enough where some of the spots we are going to probably add some space or dividers to add more. And inside on the backside, I have every single one has a QR code that goes legit to the website of where we ordered the keys before, what key it is, what the what do you call it, like the
all the specs of the key.
The specs of the key,
so
and everything
FCC and button configure, what any critical information. But the cool part is, instead of like fumbling with the bags and you're like, oh, where did I put that bag? What was the number? Or, as soon as you kind of get to the bottom of that drawer, that spot, you have the QR code, you probably have a phone on you, you just hit it, boom, takes you there, add it to cart, and maybe, I don't know, put an order in daily or every couple of days or whatever, depending on how many key suppliers you're using.
Yeah, that's huge, because if you don't, like, one of the biggest things with being a mobile locksmith, whether you're doing automotive or whether you're doing access control, people are going to go online. If you give them a quote, they're going to go online, they're going to look, they're going to order their own stuff. They're going to cut you out of the deal basically, or it's going to go to somebody else, versus if you have it and you have it now, you get to charge a maximum profit on that product, on the actual key fob itself, the markup, or however you guys do it. But having it in stock is always key. Not meaning to have a pun there, but it is what it is. You have to have it in stock. As soon as you have to order something or wait or come back, you're offering the opportunity to go to your competitor or for them to do it themselves.
Now, I think one of the big questions that we might have asked for Jamie is, do you go by for key wise or just in general? Do you go by like brand or do you go by workflow, or how do you set up your
how do you have your keys arranged?
My keys are arranged pretty much by manufacturer. So Range Rover, Jaguar, Audi, Porsche, and then Ford, stuff like that. If you looked in my van, if you saw the Milwaukee cabinets that go across the main bench, Wayne, I don't know if you can put the picture up of that just to kind of show what I'm talking about.
Like one of the photos from the
I'm not as cool as Jonathan. I couldn't do a YouTube video, let alone even pick that up.
Hey, that's the marketing team there. That is not me.
You'd be lucky if you got one on my iPhone 5 that I still use here, with a non-digital camera on it, But what I actually did is to cut down. I have a theory, and we have a shop in New Jersey, but my theory is that if we're doing a regular transponder key, if we have more than $8 into that key, we're losing money. And my reasoning behind that is that nothing against Ilco, nothing against Silco, whoever makes a key, but back in the day, so all those, that one right there, or you could go to the one previous to that, Wayne. That shows the long counter. Yeah, that one there. So all of the black and red cabinets that are there, the Craftsman's, those are actually all key shells, transponder key shells. So when I order my keys, I don't order H72 PTs. I don't order TOY 44D, 44G, 44H. I literally order TR47 shells, and my shells are in there because in a shop, when you have a lot of turnover of people coming in, you have guys that blow a key and you throw it in that bin, and your job as the owner is like, I'm cutting that chip out. I'm going to get that chip because I'm not losing the money on that. Your guy goes, I'll just go to the next bag. We got another one on the wall. So I went to start using shell keys, because that way, if my guy blows the blank, he takes the chip out, puts it in another blank that's $1.99, and I'm not losing $18, $25 on a key that I bought from Ilco that's branded, or another manufacturer that's branded, that's sealed, that I now have to pay a guy to cut that key out while he's sitting there doing nothing. So all of that there is literally my stock for Ford shells, Toyota shells, high security shells, anything where I can make a key. And then I have bins below that have my super chips in it and all my transponder chips organized so that I can make whatever a key I need to make. Because again, my theory is if I'm spending more than $8 on a regular transponder key, I'm losing money.
Okay.
Gotcha. Okay. That's great. Yeah, that's great that you explained all that. Thank you for doing so.
Yeah.
And that's great to have you guys here too, because I don't do any automotive. Like, I will open a vehicle and that's as far as I go. I don't want to have anything to do with it.
Come on, Wayne, come to the dark side.
I didn't like it. When we were going through the training and stuff, the tearing apart the doors, and I know Leashy's fixed a lot of that stuff, but every aspect of it, I personally didn't like. I gravitated towards the big, heavy boxes. I gravitated towards the safe work and the access control. And that's just where I find myself at home. I enjoy that work. And to be quite honest, we're all blessed enough that we really get to choose what we like, and we get to invest and we get to go after that. I'm not required to do work and jobs that I don't want to go do. And I think that's a huge factor. And I'm really blessed because of that. And you guys are as well. You don't have to work on things that you don't want to work on if you don't want to. It was just the spit cans, the chew, the bottles, the diapers, the just nasty, gross vehicles. It just completely turned me off from that. And I know it's not every time. And I've been in my fair share of, meth house rekeys and stuff like that. But it was just that just turned me off from it. I just didn't like doing it. But you get a chance to see, people have seen a lot of my builds, and now they get a chance to see your automotive builds. And this day and age, you almost have to dedicate a vehicle towards your specialty, right? You have to dedicate it towards automotive stuff. Look at how much stuff. Both of you guys have $150,000 builds at least, and it's completely dedicated to automotive work. right?
Yeah, there's not. I asked Bob O'Keefe about this because he does a little bit of everything, and I says, hey man, do you think I absolutely need like a 170 or a 170 extended?
Yeah.
And he said, if you're doing everything, then you got to do it. But he's like, if you're going to get a 144, he's like, you're not, there's just not going to be enough room.
Explain those numbers. Is that the wheelbase? Is that the size?
Yeah, the length and everything.
Yeah, that's the wheelbase. Yep. So, well, I guess, yeah, it is the wheelbase. But when they mention extended, it's like that's the one that Jamie has.
Yeah, it's an extra 18 inches off the back end compared to the long wheelbase. And you can run out of room real quick. And this is my first time seeing your van, and I want to commend you, and I want to congratulate you because now I understand why your van won, because I want a van that has cabinets like that in it. Like that is nice. That's
if you want to tell this one.
Oh yeah.
So this is I guess it's something that we added. I thought we just had the idea. I said, let's try and go with it. So you can get an electric Sprinter, an e-Sprinter. The charging port is behind the front emblem. So I said, well, let's see what we can do with that. So I thought you could just swap out just the center section. You can't. It's the whole grill assembly is actually slightly different. But we did install successfully the e-Sprinter front grill assembly, and then we put a Anderson breakout connector on it. So I can just hook up if I'm doing programming or if a car is dead or whatever, I can just hook up to that.
Yeah, so if you see any of those pictures where you have the wire hanging out the front, that's us able to just plug in. What's nice is unless the car is running, that does not unlock. So no one can just come by and just pop it open and stuff like that. It only unlocks if the car is running.
Like the gas cap. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's really nice. And it, just not have to open up the hood and stuff like that. And, trying to clip on and clip on, off and stuff like that. So that was a really happy project, that one.
Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah. Yeah. And with Automotive, you guys are you need to have power. You need to supply the vehicle with power.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, very cool. I started doing that too. Was with my builds, was hanging stuff off of the doors and utilizing them into the build and just hanging stuff off of them. Do you remember the name of the cabinets?
Yeah, so it's a company from Minnesota, Aluminum Cabinet Company.
Aluminum Cabinet.
Yeah. So I had a Bob O'Keefe was sort of guiding me early on. He says, well, there's a place right in Brockton, Massachusetts. I think it's called Moduline. We went over there. They kind of showed us what was going on. They gave us a tour. We're not far away from them. Again, we were just kind of calling around, sort of auditioning places just to see what they had available. And Aluminum Cabinet Company was it was incredible, what they were able to do. We sort of described it to them. They never had the van. They never saw it. They never touched it. We were what started out as drawings on a napkin, and we sort of, kind of built from there. But yeah, those guys are great.
That's cool. The seat turns around.
That's our waiting room.
Yep.
So we'll have to sit there. If you want to pause it for a second, and go back just a little bit to the main desk and stuff like that. So just so people kind of understand and stuff like that when they say things are bolted down and everything like that. So underneath the desk, there is a, what would you say, 3/4 of an inch? No.
It's 3/16.
3/16. So there is a 3/16 plate that is the size of the drawers underneath on both sides. And then each machine also has a 3/16 plate underneath as well. And they are bolted down with grade 10 and grade 8 bolts.
So what you're referring to is we had talked about the bulkhead separator, and you do not have one here, but you have your machine so heavily dutifully bolted down that in order for that thing to come off of there, you would have to have such an impact that, the entire cabinetry would be coming forward to where it really wouldn't matter. So you have addressed the safety issues that some people might be concerned about not seeing a divider there.
Yeah, even the TV, we have I think grade 8 bolts holding it into, and that actually is connected with 2 support beams that we added again with grade 8 bolts. So pretty much when he's driving, everything is basically put away. Like that was the main thing, was everything needed to have a spot. Yeah. If we're not going to have a divider, everything has to be in a drawer, or it needs to be bolted down.
Away or put away.
It cannot be
no
out.
Like loose stuff. Yeah. Which has, it hurts us a little bit because we're really relying on that storage. If we could utilize more of like the space on the wall, we can hang more tools and whatnot. But
right. Yep. Well, there's a little picture of it right there too. So yeah, basically, by the time if that cabinetry gets ripped out of there, you're in such an impact that it's really not going to matter anyways, because it's sitting there right behind your head.
Yeah.
Yep.
We are thinking maybe putting something right there behind his head just in case, but
you can put a little sheet of aluminum or something there, some bracing.
But yeah.
So
no lettering. Have you got it lettered?
Mine didn't come the way Jamie's came, where I think Jamie's is like the factory rear heat and AC.
Mine's actually aftermarket. It is aftermarket.
Oh, yours is okay.
It's a Webasto, yeah.
Okay, all right. Because I asked the salespeople at multiple Mercedes dealers, and they insisted you cannot get rear heat and AC in a cargo. And I was like, okay, I guess we just have to, we're just gonna have to add it. So on top is the Dometic, what is it, the RTX 2000 or whatever it is. And then we added let's see here. I guess it would be a Webasto. Espar diesel heater, like an auxiliary heater. It's actually mounted underneath the van. It just fits. You can't see it. It fits just behind the rocker panel inside of like a box. Mm-hmm. And we literally just
drilled holes,
massive holes through the floor. 10 out of 10. Don't recommend.
It was good though. It was good. It was nervous though, but it was very good. So even when we did the AC unit and stuff like that, like we literally had to cut. Jamie, you probably know, you had to cut a hole through your roof. And when we were working on it, we were working with a garage that still was open Monday through Friday. So Friday night we cut the hole, and now, you have to do all the different layers to make sure that everything is sealed and stuff like that, the foam and, the support beams. And we have to make sure all this is done by Monday at 8:00, and that van has to be back out of the garage so that,
back on the road.
Yeah. We went back and forth to the shop 2:00 in the morning, 3:00 in the morning, and I think it was we stayed there till almost midnight. It was a very long weekend that weekend.
Yeah.
So
yeah, for sure.
So I will tell you my son's van is a 2023 Sprinter that's up in New Jersey, and that does have factory rear heat and AC from Mercedes. We built the truck. What your salesman has to do, or if anybody's trying to get the factory OEM heat and air conditioning, is they actually have to build it as a passenger van or a crew van that has the back seat. And then when they do that, when on the build, they omit the seat, they omit the windows, they omit basically everything that makes it a crew van and makes it into a cargo van. But then you get to have the air conditioning and the heat at the top.
Yeah,
because that's awesome. What we had to do with ours. And because when I did mine, and we got my son, he has a 170, not a 170 extended, and he's like, "Oh, I want rear heat and AC like you have," and it was about a $10,000 upfit that I had them do it through the dealer when I was buying it. Yeah. But to buy it through Mercedes, it was $4,200.
Yeah.
While you're building the van, so I'm like, well, that's $6,000 I can spend on other things on the van that I'm going to drop in doing it this way. So he was able to do that. Our sales guy, he basically did a crew van, omitted the window that was on the driver's side, omitted the seat belts and everything, but left the air conditioner.
Very cool. Very
Yeah,
cool.
yeah.
I swore I saw one on the highway one time. It drove by, and I said,
my son's has got it, and they're really low profile, and like my condenser is underneath the van. So everything that trunk unit that's in there, you do lose a little head space in the back, but my condenser is actually underneath the van. So I have nothing on the roof. The only thing on the roof is my magnetic holder for my Starlink.
Oh,
Gotcha.
yeah, cool.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, and put that on there too. I was just talking about that. I was doing I kind of do like a Locksmith daily post where I just go live and talk about some stuff. But Starlink is a freaking game changer right now.
Yes,
because like you can be in the middle of nowhere and you can still do business, and like all my calls can go through Wi-Fi calling. Like it can actually even be like a life safety type of issue, to where I've saved so many calls because I'm able to actually call a landline or look and find a customer in a remote location. My GPS and everything else works. Like everything actually works because of that Starlink system. And now with the camera system and the security system that I'm going to be implementing, that then allows me to view my vehicle at any point in time too. So if I'm in a building, or if I fly and teach classes all over the country. So I can actually sit there and watch my vehicle at the airport and all that stuff too. I can actually communicate and I can see everything that's going on, all because of Starlink. So if you're thinking about getting Starlink, it is a little pricey. I think it was like $350 for the little mini kit. And it's like $50 a month, depending on how much you use it. It's an absolute and utter game changer. I also kind of live in a little bit of a rural area. They're small towns. So power going out happens all the time. Internet going out happens all the time. So I have power banks in my house to where everything's just plugged into that. And then that's plugged into the wall. So when the power does go out, it doesn't affect me. And then I can actually have the Starlink going on in the truck parked in the driveway, and it umbrellas the majority of the house. So I can have internet at the house. So if you are considering getting Starlink, just for a business application alone, just being able to do the invoices, run the credit cards, because I can run the credit card right off of my phone. I can run, and do all that stuff right there, capture signature, all of that stuff. Just from that standpoint alone, I would highly recommend it or consider getting it as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We put Starlink on ours. I think I wouldn't say we were an early adopter or anything, because obviously we bought it and then it just sat around because we didn't get to that point of the install. But I think when we bought ours, it was like $499, and they just keep dropping the price. I think I just saw, like, just recently, I think it's on sale right now for $199.
Ooh.
Yeah.
And they just doubled for your $50 a month. You get 100 gigs now instead of 50.
Oh, wow. I'm going to have to sell it and buy a new one so I can get the new deal.
All right.
Yeah. And I have mine on a magnetic holder up top with the wire going through, but I have a separate 100-foot wire for Starlink that I can plug into a cigarette lighter, because where I go in certain areas, so everybody thinks Florida is the beach or, in sand, but I'm actually in a very rural area of north central Florida, which is a lot of undeveloped pine barrens, stuff like that. Yeah. And we have springs, and the springs are a watering hole that looks like a pool. It's the water 71 degrees all year round, and it brings people from other countries here, everything. And everybody loses their keys in the spring because they jump into the water and they lose their keys. Well, the one spring is known, as soon as you pull in there and go down the hill toward the spring, there is no cell phone service, AT&T, Verizon, Sprint, all of them, nothing. My van has the T-Mobile built-in Wi-Fi. Gone, nothing. And the majority of cars that we have, which is something that you don't deal with, Wayne, the majority of cars, you need internet in order to program a car. Yep. And when you're down there, you can't do anything because you have no internet. So the Starlink is really, it's a game changer, and mine is portable so that I can actually unplug it, pull the magnet cover off with the Starlink, and move it if I need to. Because I have trees, I can go to an open area where I'm going to have direct sky, and then I'll have my internet that I need. And it truly is a game changer, and it works out really well when you're sitting there on a job that you got done in 5 minutes, but you're charging a good price for. So you want it to go for an hour, you can always turn on your TV and turn on a show or whatever you want now and watch. the days that
Put the AC on.
Yeah, turn the AC on, close the door.
Have lunch.
Sound real busy.
So when my mother started our locksmithing company, she started out of the trunk of a 75 Grand Prix. And my brother and I literally would read books in the back seat on the way to the malls to put in U-change cylinders. And growing up as a kid, when we finally got a van and had an inverter where there's TV power, we drove to Virginia and we brought a TV that had a built-in VCR. And we thought we were the coolest guys in the world because we had a TV in our van and we could watch our VHS tapes because we had an inverter. Right. And now here you are today, and you've got a smart TV in your van, and you literally, I have a blow-up bed in my van. So when I go down South Florida, and if I was spending the day down in South Florida and it was too late to drive home, I literally turn the bed, blow it up, lay down, turn the TV on. It's on a swivel. I move it toward me. And I go to sleep watching TV.
Motel.
I love it.
Oh my God.
Yeah, that's awesome. And that's
technology's gone completely different. Like even 10 years ago, just if you look at a van build from there, just the van itself, not even the stuff that we add to it, or the key machines, the cabinets that Johnathan had done, that stuff was never around back there. Guys would literally go get lumber and build cabinets out of 2x4.
That's what I did.
Because that's all that there was back then. And nowadays, the things that you can do, and I think the greatest compliment that you get, and I'm sure you've gotten this, Johnathan, even today when I was on a job, as soon as I opened the door up, the guy's like, "Oh my God, this is like a Snap-on truck."
Yeah.
And to hear that, and I mean, I have my own personal feelings on Snap-on and what I call my Snap-on guy, but to get called that, it's like, okay, they realize that not only does the outside of the truck look nice, but when you open it up, they're like, wow, okay, charge me, take my money. Because they realize that there's somebody in there that is doing a high quality job, and your truck on the inside reflects everything of your workmanship.
A good saying that always stuck in my head is, how you do anything is how you do everything. If your van just is a complete utter mess, your finances are probably a mess, your house, your shop, everything is probably a giant mess around you. So it does definitely play into that. And you're setting the standard, you're setting the bar. You can imagine the experience you would get. Just imagine if you called a plumber, or you called somebody to install solar on your house, and you got somebody who shows up in a whoopty with 3 different colored doors on their van or their pickup truck, and then somebody who shows up with everything all nice and tidy and prim. The things we're looking for, other people are looking for in us. And us as human beings, we're looking for those little things to say, I believe this is a quality, professional, competent human being who is a professional that's going to do a professional job. So there's definitely something to be said for that. We'll just run through a little bit, and I can show some of like the ambulance build that we did here, because a lot of people want to do that. And I will caution people, I did this ambulance build. It had a diesel motor, 4x4, lots and tons of room. There was a lot of good aspects to it. But I can tell you from personal experience, it's a money pit. It was a giant money pit. It took a lot of it just had so many different things. Air suspension got eaten by rats. Like, there was just a ton of different things that happened to that, to where I didn't find that it was functional anymore. It was definitely a great advertising piece, and people love seeing it roll around. And it did its job. I mean, when she showed up, I had every single thing I could possibly need, but just between fuel, tires, weight, and that was the big key there too. To give people an idea, an F-350 or a 1-ton truck is designed to probably weigh in somewhere around 10,000 pounds when it's all fully loaded and decked out with everything. To give you context, that vehicle already weighed that with nothing in it, with just the ambulance body. So then when you go and fill it full of tools, by the time I rolled across the scale, we were probably rolling around at about 15,000 pounds. Which
you the van, what was that?
It wasn't completely filled, but when we did run ours across the CAT scale, and it was like something like I think it was like 8,800 maybe.
Yeah.
No keys, no programmers and stuff, but
Yeah.
you
Do
know.
you know your weight, Jamie, off the top of your head, roughly?
9,922 pounds.
Okay, so that's
that
really,
with everything in it.
that's really good to know too, because if your vehicle isn't weight rated, if you are over your weight rating, and anybody that does a build, you should definitely do this too. This is another one of those things. Mark it on your calendar. Go to a gravel pit or go to a truck stop and roll your vehicle fully loaded as you're driving it right now with a full tank of fuel, by the way. Roll it across the scale. If you are above your governed vehicle weight rating or GVW, then if you get into an accident, one of the insurance companies, if there's a smart attorney, they're going to say, go weigh that vehicle. And if you're over your governed vehicle weight rating, then it's automatically your fault because you have overloaded that vehicle to where the brakes and the steering and all of the components are not designed to handle that much weight. And that is an additional thing that people don't think about until after the fact. So that was one of the big problems is I think I put 2 transmissions in that thing. Somebody ended up putting the final straw was somebody ended up putting gas in it as a I think it was an ex-employee and basically cracked the block. So I got another motor put in it and then I sold it after that, unfortunately. But it was a cool ride. I mean, it was definitely cool and it was fun to build too. I learned a lot. But if you want to learn from some of my pain, I would not recommend it.
Here we see a
I'll second that. And
ambulance for sale. This is the truck body. Absolutely.
Go ahead.
The reason I will do that is because in my other life outside of being a locksmith, I work as a firefighter, and our med units are literally a year old, and they have already 182,000 miles on them, and they are brand new Dodge Ram F550 5500s.
Yeah.
And when I tell you there's a difference between 187,000 highway miles and 187,000 code 3 stop brake throttling down going to a call, it is completely different. So and like you said, there's the expense of that, because at the end of the day, the reason that departments get rid of these is because that end of life is there and they're like, wait a minute, now there's too many things wrong here and we got to keep fixing this. So it's going to be somebody else's headache. As a backup, probably a great idea.
Sure.
But for an everyday runner, and those ambulances new are about $200,000.
Oh yeah.
So
yeah.
I mean, if you've got that money and you want to spec out, an ambulance company to build you your work van, and you got that type of clout, you knock yourself out. Go ahead and do it. But
I just found that the mechanical expenses, fuel, I mean, it was diesel, so you're going to get about as good fuel mileage as you can. And then parking, it doesn't fit anywhere. You don't fit in a parking spot. You can't go in parking garages. It didn't fit anywhere.
We made it a requirement that we needed to have 4-wheel drive. All of our vehicles are 4-wheel drive. And you can see that we converted that ambulance into something much different here. I personally stripped all of the paint, sanded, prepped, and painted the entire thing black to match the rest of the fleet. And
here's the other truck. So for people looking for the other F350 here, that's the old 7.3 with the 6-speed manual transmission. That had 500,000 miles on it when I sold it, and it's still on the road today. I'm guessing with about 700,000 miles on it.
It's also you can't have an ambulance that looks like an ambulance out on the road. Here's what it looks like with my other F350 truck as well. Obviously, we have some very heavy-duty vehicles for this application. So here the back doors open up. You'll notice they open nice and wide, and you can fit a lot of things inside there. We'll take a trip inside. You'll start to see Milwaukee pack-out equipment inside, and then a large rolling Milwaukee toolbox and some lights up there in the top. Here, everything is pack-out compatible. We've got our blue punches for both Schlage and Kwikset mounted on Milwaukee pack-out. We've got the Milwaukee pack-out drawers underneath. Here we have our charging station where all of our Milwaukee and Dremel tool batteries are stored, kept, and can charge all day long. So even if we're on a big job, we can keep rotating batteries and keep working. Here is the large Milwaukee toolbox, fully metal toolbox with a wood worktop and bench. There's a Freeman number 2 on there. And here we utilize the ambulance's seat for pinning. This is the pinning station, and yes, that is an air conditioner set up in there. This ambulance has heat and air conditioning, climate control in the back. Here, sitting in the seat, we've got our pinning mat directly in front of us and our pinning station. You'll notice all of the different little tools set up on that magnetic portion. Everything is nice and organized and ready to rock and roll. We can really get some serious rekeying in this particular vehicle. Again, we're going to see some more lighting up in the top. That is the factory original coach lighting, and then more Milwaukee Packout stuff on the side. You can see that everything is tucked away nice and clean, and everything holds and sticks to the wall. We also can switch trucks very quickly. We just simply click, plug, and play. It's literally like tool Legos with the Milwaukee Packout system. Here is our power inverter with backup battery. Anytime you run a power inverter, you have to have the additional backup battery within 12 inches, or at least that is my rule. Here's some other footage of the toolbox and the Milwaukee Packout system as well, and then another shot of that particular pinning station that we can see right in front of me here. Very easy to use. And then here is some more spray paint, touch-up paint, caulking, and other things that can be used for door and frame repair out in the field. And that number 2 frame and key machine is one of the staple marks of this particular vehicle. Now we'll take a walk on the outside. Chris here is actually the one that organized this truck. He is my new technician and made it very, very organized to what you see today. Here's the back side. We've got 2 bay doors in the back and then 1 big man door on the side. And then we utilize all of the drawers and cabinetry that this particular unit provides so that we have ample storage for all of our tools. In this particular compartment, we house the air compressor that runs the air suspension system, along with long reach tools and lockout tools. Yes, this thing does have a massive bumper and a massive winch. And as you can see here, we're actually using that winch to tip a safe backup that was tipped over by a forklift driver. We do deliver safes with this particular truck as well. It is called Safe Kraken. It's a little pun or kind of play on words. And this thing is fully functional and ready to deliver safes and pack a punch while it's out doing its normal job as well. Here we've got our vehicle chained up, snow socks on, and our massive trailer delivering 3 safes to 1 location. I hope you have enjoyed the building and explanation of the Safe Kraken with Tri-County Locksmith Service, hosted by Wayne Winton.
So that's just kind of a different take on it, different applications, different things, obviously, different budget and whatnot. Again, if you're going to set something up, set it up for you, set it up the way you need it set up so that you can run your jobs easier. I can without a doubt tell you, and I'm sure you guys will agree with me here, the way you set up your vehicle will either save you or cost you thousands and thousands of dollars. And one of the ways that I convince my employees of this is every time you have to go back to the truck to get something or root around for something or find something, if it's not very easily accessible, leave a $20 bill in the truck and see how many times and see how much money you leave in that truck every single day. That's what it's costing the company when you have to go back and forth and you're not organized and you can't find things. If you're organized and you have everything right where you need it and you're able to move around, you're able to operate at a much higher efficiency and you're able to make more money, because if you can save 10 minutes on each job, then you can stack in an extra job at the end of the day. When I add up all my invoices at the end of the year and divide them by the number of invoices and the total amount income that comes in, it's about $450 per ticket. So that means I add another $450 every single day that you're able to be organized and add another call to that job and to that day. So it's super, super important. And that's why making it custom for you is so important, making it so that you can organize it, so you can get what you need and do the job that you need to do in the time that you need to do it.
I think that was our biggest thing, was organization versus workflow. Like every single thing that we worked with, or each thing, like the machines and stuff like that. Like if you look at it, our the 007 duplicator is all the way at the end. It's actually not with the other cutting machines, but we don't use it as much, but we still wanted access to it. So it was like one of those things like, oh, do we put it with the other cutting machines? Because organization, it's like, well, all the cutting machines are together.
Yeah.
But workflow is no, I'd rather have the little grinder to clean up the keys and stuff like that, and have that vise available. And that vise can go 360 degrees, both, vertically and horizontally. That was more important to us because when he does bench work, he needs that available.
Right.
So,
Right.
I think that was the biggest thing. Even organizing the keys, that's why we asked Jamie earlier. Workflow or organization. We actually ended up putting most of our Toyota keys in the first 2 or 3 drawers because 95% of our keys in our area are Toyotas.
We're doing a lot of Toyotas, and that's early. It's on the passenger side, like the some of the first drawers are right there. And all the Euros and stuff. I mean, we do a fair amount of Euros, but obviously not as frequently as like a Honda, a Ford, a Toyota.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. And don't be afraid to reorganize it. Like if you get it set up and you find that, maybe your climate changes or maybe the industry changes a little bit. And like you said, you're doing a bunch of Toyotas now. Don't be afraid to take an hour or two and move that stuff around so that it does make it so that you're more efficient. I remember one of the coolest things that I had one of the pictures back here behind me. We made Van of the Year for Fleet magazine. We actually made the cover. And I mounted an HPC Blitz on the door intentionally because the door opens. When the door gets swung open, all the brass shavings fall out on the ground instead of in your vehicle, right? Or they're already there at the back, so I can use it either way, and we can just blow all that stuff right out. That's just one of those little tricky things that you don't think about until you're out there and you're using it every single day. So don't be afraid to kind of move things around. It really helps.
Wayne, if you just check your messenger, I actually sent you a video that I did on my son's van that I did, which was a Nissan NV200.
Oh, cool.
Just some for guys that have smaller vans.
Yeah.
The one thing I will say with me, pretty much from the fire department motto, because all of our engines are standardized where everything goes in the same spot on each truck. So if you're on engine 3 today and tomorrow you're on engine 5, you're able to go to that same draw in that engine and know where everything is. So on my other Sprinters in New Jersey, I actually have the cabinet set up the same way, along with the exact same key machines in the same spot. That way, when my guy goes, oh, the key's not there, I go, really? Why are you in my truck looking for it? Yours are in the exact same spot. Go find them, because that way there was some standardization there that my guys would know, oh, well, I don't have a truck like the big boss, but yet you do, because the cabinets are set up the exact same way with the same key machine. So there's uniformity between somebody going to another truck.
Shoot me that link one more time. I didn't get it in Messenger.
Okay.
That definitely helps too. If you've got some kind of uniformity, if you do have a standard way to set things up, then you can kind of know, hey, this is where this is going to be at. And that's when you start scaling, right? That's when it's not just your vehicle. Now you're scaling and you're actually including more vehicles to it. And there is some kind of standardization to that as well, which does definitely help. It's all about what works for you and what works for your team and how you're going to set that up, which is extremely important. So we'll check out that link. And I remember a lot of people were very upset when the Nissan Envies got discontinued. A lot of people really liked that. And they even had a Locksmith factory package, which was really cool. I was definitely considering getting one of those Envies. They got a ton of mileage. People were getting, 2, 3, even maybe 400,000 out of them.
Wayne, it should have actually just been a video itself, not a link.
Okay, I still don't see anything. Oh, there it is. I got it now. All right.
Yeah, if you could just put that up. So this was an NV200 that I put my son in when he moved down to Florida. Or should I say he came to visit me for Thanksgiving and never left. So I wanted to put him in a van, and I wound up
to work.
Yeah. Well, he wanted to work, and he literally was using my Subaru because he knew I used the Subaru. But we can let this play real quick, and we with the audio, and everybody can hear it. The new one. Let's go on down to the Fort Myers Cape Coral area this weekend. It will be in service. We're just finishing it up. So 2015 Nissan NV200. So I added a head unit in with a backup camera. I also did keyless entry on it, so it'll lock while it's running. All the doors are locked. I'll show you the inside since we got it done. We are officially finished now. So I put an outlet in the back here. Got our Triton up here. I finished the movable articulating bench to match the other countertops. Did an outlet on the wall there for Johnny. Quad outlet here. Light switch. So we added the stackables. I actually put all the drawers in. So double draw, 4 draw. Put a vise in. Cut out the protector here, whatever you call it. Open that up so you can get airflow back here. That's what he wanted. And we got more storage over here. And this is the cat's meow here. So now you guys can see how this works. So this is on an articulating bearing. That's set up now.
I like that, Jamie.
This is so he could work from the back if you wanted to work in the back.
Yeah, you can kind of stand there and
you can leave it there. You can close the door. So now he also has all that other counter space because in the smaller van, you don't have that much space.
Right.
And this winds up giving him the counter space on that side as well when he needs it.
yeah.
And this, literally all of these cabinets that are in here, aside from the trip to Home Depot for the wood and everything and the vinyl flooring, was all off of Marketplace. I spent no more than about $500 on all those cabinets. And I literally bought the most expensive thing I probably bought was the actual Adrian Steel touch-up paint. That's the correct color code, just to touch the cabinets up. But all of those were used cabinets out of vans that I wound up building. So that van was about, I paid $4,500 for the van. The lettering was about $800. I put the lettering on myself. With all the upgrades and everything, I probably had about $6,000 into that van, and it was ready to go. And that is his main driver now. He's still using that 2 years later.
Right.
Down there. So you can, as long as you think about what you want to do, you can make it work for you. And everybody has to start somewhere. We started in the trunk of a 75 Grand Prix, and we wound up having 4 shops, 12 trucks, and 21 employees at one time before the market crashed in 2008. And we would standardize everything because you need to have things in a certain spot for all your guys. You can't just throw stuff in the van. And like you said, time is money. So you're looking for that 1 1/8 mortar cylinder that you had in that drawer, but now you can't find it. And the only thing that's going to work is a cloverleaf cam 1 1/8 mortar cylinder. And you only had one, and now you're spending 25 minutes looking for that.
Yep. Just cost you an arm and a leg. And then what happens on top of that too is then you can't find it and it gets buried because it's not organized. So then you order another 1 or 2. Now you're sitting on 3 of them and you can't find any of them. They still do you no good if you can't find it.
Right. Exactly.
So yeah, all those are great points. And like I said, man, here we are, president of Aloha. I had a $1,000 Subaru with $500 worth of stuff in it. A $1,500 car can get you through a pinch. It can be a start. It can be what you set your first employee up in. It can be what you use as a turnkey backup so you can run some calls while your main vehicle is getting fixed. Like there's no excuse because you've seen everything from a $1,500 build to a $150,000 build and everything in between.
This one, I wanted to add or send. This is how we actually put power to every single drawer. And, everybody kind of talks about, power outlets and all that stuff like that. We literally made it so that every single drawer in that van, has power, because another thing that you have to be ready for is programmers need to be powered up. Your any kind of machine needs to be powered up and everything like that. So that was one of the big things. Again, the things on the back that you actually see the cables being held on, you can get them on Amazon. They're from Germany and they're super expensive and they come in and out of stock all the time. So it took us a while to actually get a full collection of that.
It keeps the cords so it doesn't get pinched in the drawer.
Correct. Yeah.
But it allows you to pull the drawer out and then put the drawer back in.
Yep.
Yeah. And it just, I asked the aluminum cabinet company, I says, can you guys outfit this thing so it's got, the drawers are powered up? And he's like, nah, that's not something that we really do. And I'm like, okay. And I just, so many times, you only have so many outlets or you only have so, even still, I still sometimes forget to plug things in or whatever, but the confidence that I have being able to show up to a job and know that all my tools are basically at 100%. And I don't have to be like, oh man, I got to wait for this thing to turn on or, whatever, these things are 100% ready to go.
Yeah.
That was a priority for sure in the van build. But I do want to just go back real quick too. You were talking about, Jamie said it too, you got to start somewhere. So my first service vehicle, not for locksmithing, was a 1994 Eagle Summit minivan, like the little 3-door one, but it was like this kind of funny looking van thing. That was my first service vehicle, and it was great. I could that thing would fit anywhere. I could load that thing up with product in the back. I had it for a while. Couldn't find parts for it when it broke, and then that was kind of it for that. But the first car that we had that had a key machine inside of it, as a matter of fact, the same Condor that's in the video, that's in Klaus, the first time, the first vehicle that we had that had that key machine in it was a 05 Legacy station wagon. That was the first car that we were cutting keys out of.
My car.
Exactly. It's just a matter of making a commitment. Like you said, make a plan, right? We fail to plan to fail. So make a plan, write something out, put something together. Right? With all the tools that we have now, you could probably even put that into your favorite Chat GPT or whatever you're using, right? And say, hey, I've got this vehicle this year. I want to build it out for a locksmith van. Here's the priorities that I need. And it'll probably write you out a list like it writes up a recipe, right? It'll send you everything you need to do. There's no excuse why people can't do that. And why they can't get started and set it up. It's just a matter of breaking through that fear barrier, making the commitment, saying you're going to do it, and getting out and actually doing it and putting in the blood, sweat, and tears. Every story that you've heard in this chat section today, in this podcast, involved late nights, lots of planning, lots of mistakes, and correcting those mistakes. And then you end up having something beautiful in the end because you worked through all of that. And that's really what it's about. It's just powering through, doing what you see is working, be willing to adjust, and just keep moving forward until it is the way that you want it to be. That's all there is to it. So that's great stuff. We are, believe it or not, we are almost at 2 hours. This is the longest podcast we've ran, but I thought this was definitely the subject to do it on. For sure. I've got some great people here, leaders in the industry, some of the coolest vans and coolest rides that you're ever going to see at any event. I hope you guys check this out. If you go to a training event, I know, Jamie, you teach classes all the time. You teach a lot of high-end classes. If you want to go into that a little bit, go ahead and tell us a bit about who you teach for, what suppliers you teach for, and what you teach, and talk a little bit about some of your classes that you teach.
Yeah, so originally, I started with Subaru because I was from the Northeast and was dealing with a ton of Subaru stuff. And then it wound up being a Range Rover dealer calling me that needed a Range Rover done, and was able to do that. And then the Range Rover thing kind of took off. So now I don't see myself this way, but other people in the industry are like, you're the Range Rover guru. And I don't. I honestly don't. There are people out there in this industry that are way smarter than me, and I totally admit that. But I do a class for Key Innovations. I do a Range Rover class. It used to be a 1-day class. It's now actually going to be a 2-day class because we're getting into aftermarket tools as well as OEM tools that will actually show you how to do active alarms and not have to replace modules. And it's kind of a niche that's still there, that hasn't been expanded upon by other tool manufacturers to get into the game of doing Range Rover. But again, I have background in access control, hanging rotons, doing steel doors and frames, Von Duper 99 conversions. And I loved commercial work, and it's good money. It is great money. And sometimes it's fast money, But my thing was, it was cars. Growing up as a kid, I always loved cars. God rest his soul, but Ray Diadamo was the first class I ever took. Steve Young, I took his class back when he was tech trained. Thankfully, I got to see him right before he passed. I actually went to the hospital he was at, which is right in the next town over where I work as a firefighter. And when I walked in, I was in my station uniform. And I walked in and I said, Steve, and he looked at me and he goes, Yep, I'm ready to go. And he's going to get in a wheelchair because he thought I was there to take him somewhere. And I said, no. And I had to explain who I was real quick. And he was like, oh my gosh. And he's like, you're a fireman? I said, yeah, I'm a firefighter also. But I said, and we sat there and talked. And you realize like how far the industry has come from back then of tearing down a GM steering column. And my son has done 3 his entire life. And he's 28. And all 3 have been under the supervision of me. Because I said to him, why do you think I have scars on my hands from reaching up in a GM door panel and grabbing that clip? Because there was no such thing as leashes. Nope. There were no such things as gator clips that used to pull the GM face caps off and stuff like that. You literally, everything was by hand. There were no key codes. There were no code brokers. It was all old school locksmithing. And a file.
Impressioning.
My son watched a 66 Mustang, and he goes, Dad, are we going to get a key code for this? I looked at him, I said, no, a file and a key. And literally in about 3 minutes, we had a key. And he looked at me and he goes, yeah. I said, son, this is a skill that's not taught anymore. I said, because you guys have your leashes, you guys have your key codes and stuff like that. I said, but old school locksmithing is something. And unfortunately,
it's a dying
those guys are not here anymore, or kind of on the end of their lifespan, where that knowledge, once it goes, it's gone unless it continues to go on, And I realize GM steering column servicing is not a huge draw for Aloha this year, for people to learn how to service a GM column. But I can't tell you how many classic cars I post on Facebook that they go, oh, they called 10 locksmiths, nobody could do this car. And it's a 69 Camaro, and nobody knows how to touch it or make a key to it. And for me, I guess that's great being 50 and still being able to do it. But the younger guys, they have no clue about the really older stuff. But yeah, definitely, I think with you being the head of Aloha, it would definitely maybe even be some type of brochure or something they hand out in Vegas this year with the insurance thing. And I realized this was more about the build itself and what we did to build it. But you have to realize all of that comes at a cost the day that incident happens and you don't have that van anymore. And you realize how much you put into that. And again, you can't put a price on your time. You can't put a price on your thought and your heart that went into that van. But that's everything to all of us. Our service van is everything. And I would tell people when my van was down, I told the insurance company, I said, my van is my business and my business is my van. I said, and without that, I'm not making any money. I'm self-employed.
Yep.
And, the insurance company sat there for a second and I said, you can't even put me in an enterprise van right now because you're not going to let me take those cabinets out of my van and put them in the enterprise van so I can run around and make money. I said, you have to realize what that's going to cost you in the long run. I even actually have loss of revenue coverage in my insurance policy, so that because now if I'm down, at least I can put a claim in that my truck was down for a month, and at least it's going to cover my expenses. Because at the end of the day, you still have an insurance payment to pay. You still have a truck payment. The
Yep.
mortgage is still due. You
Yep.
know, the only thing you're saving on is fuel costs
fuel.
because you're not putting fuel in it because you're not driving it. But that's about the only thing you're saving. So I think the insurance thing is definitely, it's something that's underlooked. It's like, we have insurance. Okay, great. I'm covered. But you're really not covered. You're
But
paying
what's covered?
insurance. But what is really covered?
Yeah. Yeah. And like you said, loss of work. If you get injured, you know, what is really covered? Are you being covered for the loss of income? You know, and that's why I document everything too. Like, you take up all those invoices, you divide them by how many you did and your total income. You know, I've got it clocked in to where I can tell you how much we make a day roughly. You know, and we need to be able to recoup that and cover that, because like you said, I can get by, you know, I can throw some tools and some stuff in another vehicle, but it's not the same. I'm not operating at the same speed. It's like being stuck in first gear. You know, I can move, but I'm not doing anything efficiently or quickly. And those are all definitely things that we're going to get brought up as well. Just you know, as you mentioned, that one of the things I'm trying to do as president is bring more people the information they want. The number one request is on-demand video training that we've gotten, and we are doing that right now. We're working on a platform that's working out really good. It's got questions, because the biggest problem with on-demand training is getting the CEU credits, right? Somebody can just play a video and say, yeah, I took it, give me my CEU credits. And states like Texas, they're like, no, that's not going to work. We have to have documented proof. So it's actually a much more complex issue, to where we have to have questions every 5 or 10 minutes to keep them engaged, to make sure that they're actually still there, and they have to complete it and get the answers correct. And then there has to be a test at the end. But anytime, if you'd like to work together and show, you know, tearing down that steering column and show some of that old school information and that hand filing impression and that stuff that is starting to get lost, it's a very dear to me subject to really preserve that and talk to people like you, so that information doesn't go to the grave. Because I remember working with a guy who, one of the lockouts we did is he could see the key from the outside, and he said, watch this, and he would hand file that key like the key maker in the Matrix. And just being able to see it, could sight read it and get it so damn close, and then get it in there and just finish it off. And I mean, it looked like magic. It really looked like superpower magic when you don't understand what's going on. We understand what's going on, but if you don't, it really does look like magic. And I really want to preserve that. So we're building out the on-demand video education program. We're getting more education to get more people educated, so we have less scammers and trunk slammers, and we have more of a professional base in the industry. Those are all definitely things that are top tier goals that I plan on accomplishing. So if either of you would like to be part of that, let me know, and we'll help set it up. We'll get the cameras, we'll get things documented. I'll work with you. I will donate my time and whatever we need to do to help edit it and get it put up on a platform to where we can preserve that information.
I tell the guys and gals that take my class, I'll sit there and I'll ask them a question just to see them go all to their phone to look up the answer, right? And I literally have in the class, I have a Hank Spicer book that is torn up, beaten, 35 years old. Mm-hmm. And I go to him, I go, this is how you learned locksmithing back in the day. Mm-hmm. You had this book. That was it. You couldn't call him. Mm-hmm. You couldn't text message him. You couldn't look him up on YouTube. You had to learn by either sitting in a class, if you were lucky enough to get in one, or you had to buy his book and read it. Yep. I said, that's the way locksmithing was back in the day. And it was very, nowadays, there are YouTube lock stars out there, and the information sharing is probably a lot better today than it was. I mean, I remember as a kid going to the Locksmith Association meetings in New Jersey with my mom, and my brother and I would go, and the only reason we went is because they got Dunkin' Donuts in the back, and there were all these donuts. And the crazy part is, my buddy Teddy, he now runs his family's business, and a couple other guys, we were all kids, and we used to all play in the back, eating donuts and playing with our G.I. Joes, and everybody else was in there smoking their Marlboro Reds, having their meeting, and one guy would talk about something, and nobody would share anything. Everything was a trade secret. Everything was a trade secret. If you knew how to pick a quick set lock, It was a trade secret. Right. Nobody could know anything. And now the information is there and people are willing to share it. Yeah. Is it a double-edged sword? Sure, it is. But back in the day, those guys wouldn't share anything with anybody because it was super secretive. And now you've got publications. You have online influence of people out there doing stuff, for the right reason and showing the right things, not people with an Autel, 100, stealing Dodge Chargers and stuff like that, which isn't what locksmiths do, but it's out there and it's a good tool for people to have. And I think that's one thing. And one thing I would ask of you and Aloha is to have some sort of committee that would be in contact with Google.
We're trying that. We definitely have some information on that too.
The Google stuff. I've had 15 locksmiths send me Facebook ads for $15 for a key, and there is a picture of my van in their ad with my phone number on it. Now, granted, I laugh at it because I go, these guys are really stupid. My phone number is right there. Advertising me, but I have people calling from Colorado, from Nevada. And they're like, yeah, we need a key. I saw your ad on Facebook Marketplace. And of course, all of these people don't have a photo. It's a fake profile, but it all comes back to the 24/7 locksmith. And it all goes to a data center, where they're putting pictures of vans. And it's not just my van. It's other guys' vans that are like it too.
They've done it to me.
But guys send it to me. And they're like, dude, you're in my area now? And I'm like, no. And they show me the Facebook Marketplace ad listing for $15 with a picture of my van. So the Google thing is definitely something I would like to see with the power of Aloha. Maybe have some sort of head game with that, with making sure stuff is verified with the fake stuff and the Google ads and all that other stuff. Because again, Johnathan and I, we're not multimillionaires, right? And I mean, maybe Johnathan is. I don't know. I'm definitely not. I work for a living, right? And I don't have time to sit in front of a computer and do the, I'm going to say SCN coding because my mind is on Mercedes, but whatever it's called that you do for Google to make your ads go to the top of the list and all that stuff. And I'm also not the type of guy that's going to farm that out to a guy in another country that's going to tell me I'm going to get you 1,000 clicks a day for, $2.99 or whatever, because it's too good to be true. Right. But
and then they just steal your account and hold it hostage and charge you a couple $1,000 to get it back.
Oh, sure, yeah. One of my web IP addresses is one of those that was held hostage. Yeah. But that's something I would like to see Aloha focus on is with Google as far as the listings and all that other stuff, because that's an issue that a lot of us small time guys have, because today you have to have an online presence. I'm still old school. I think my presence is that lettering I have on my van. And I probably get more work just from people driving and seeing my van than ads on Facebook, than a Google listing or whatever. But I know for a fact, because of Google, my stuff's not listed now because they've gone in and they've hacked the account to the point that I have no listing on Google anymore. Right. And you can't talk to anybody at Google, but maybe a large organization such as Aloha can do something about that and get in contact with Google, especially with the fake listings. I mean, I have 6 listings where my shop's at in New Jersey, and I have one listed in my own building that we own. There's another locksmith listed in the same address as my company.
I definitely hear that, and that was one of the big things that we ran and campaigned on. The number one pain point in the locksmith industry right now is your Google My Business listing, and it depends from whether it's getting suspended because you made a change, or whether it's scammers that are taking over and just showing up and burying everybody else. I know that's the number one problem in the industry right now. This is probably a whole nother podcast, but I will at least address it. We have contacted Google. We have even talked to people who are higher up. There was a lady that went on a news show, a TV news show, that talked about when Google took like 10,000 listings down. And we tried to get into contact with her. We've contacted several other people, and we've offered and said, look, why aren't you utilizing our resources in our vetting process to where it may not be the one and only thing that they use. But if you're on the fence as to whether or not this company is legitimate or not, an Aloha membership could add that enough to tip you over the edge. They're absolutely not interested. They're interested in automation. They're interested in AI systems. And the real kicker that nobody really understands, the behind the curtains, if you peek behind the curtains, every time we make it more difficult and more, what's the word I'm looking for? Every time we add another step or make it more difficult to get a legitimate listing posted on Google, we make it more difficult for the legitimate people to actually get on there because they don't know how to follow all the rules. Mm-hmm. For example, right now, so it makes it easier. Every time you tighten the grip or you think we're making it better, licensing, we can see how that works. All these other things, it makes it harder for the legitimate people to get on there because they're locksmiths. And like you said, they're not Google people. They're not website engineers. They're not SEO specialists. And it makes it easier for the scammers to get on there because they know those things, right? So it's a huge problem. I acknowledge it's a huge problem. Unfortunately, we have gone to Google. We have knocked on their door. We have reached out to several different individuals who we thought would give us some kind of direction. And unfortunately, we just keep running into the same brick walls that everybody else does. As an association, it's not a multi-million-dollar association. We don't have a fleet of attorneys just sitting there waiting to, throw money at Google, which even if the whole industry, if you pulled every dollar from the industry, it would be a fraction of what Google is worth, right? So it is this huge David and Goliath story. And it's to the point now where if you change your phone number, or you change your address, it's not even a question of if your account will be taken down. It's like immediate. It's going to come down. They're going to automatically suspend it. And then you're going to have to go through that re-verification process and that video process. And also the new things that I'm hearing is that mobile services aren't even being granted listings anymore. This is just what I've heard from the specialists that I've talked to. And they're not even being listed. So if you don't have a brick and mortar, you don't even have a chance to get listed on there. And then you have to go through such an advanced verification process with the video and the streets and the signage and all of this stuff. We're under such a microscope right now. It's crazy, all of the Google stuff. So I do understand it. I do acknowledge it. I have done what I can do. I gave every single member the Google Black Book of Secrets, which is me working with the Google specialists that I trust. If my business got suspended, it's the exact people who I would call. And we came up with a step-by-step process on how you can get that account back, how you can prevent it from getting suspended in the first place. Other means that you can advertise with, such as Facebook and Instagram, to utilize those other options so that you can continue to work and get something. So everything's not in the proverbial Google basket. She's taken my class as well, and we've gone over these different things. She's taken my class twice. So I have addressed these issues the best that I possibly can. But when we are in between a rock and a hard place, we can't fight Google. We can't argue with them. We're literally at their mercy. And this is what happens when there is what I would say and consider a monopoly on the industry. It'd be like trying to argue with the phone book companies and tell them not to take scammers' money 20 years ago. What are we going to do? And I know it doesn't look like we're doing anything, but as I've just explained, there are so many moving parts behind the curtain. We have gone down those avenues. We have reached out. We have offered our vetting services to help improve that. And we have done everything we can possibly do. We just haven't found a chink in the armor yet to try and grab a hold of it. So it's not for lack of effort. It's one of those complex puzzles that we just haven't found an answer for yet. So we are working on it as much as I possibly can. And I donated all my time to give that class away for free to all the members, so they can at least have some tools to fight their own battles. That's what I've done, is I've at least armed people with enough tools to where you can fight your own battles and you can survive having that listing suspended for a certain amount of time, and how to actually set it up so that you don't fall in the pit holes and the pitfalls to get it taken down and suspended in the first place. That's all I can do at this particular point in time until we have more information, or until we can actually get a hold of somebody who is high enough up that wants to listen to us. But when you have people suing Google because they're promoting scammers and then they tighten and ratchet down the requirements, it just makes it that much more difficult to get a listing up to begin with and to advertise at all. It is a double-edged sword, and it is cutting this industry deep on both sides. It is true. So, anything else I can do to help, or anything else we want to talk about before we get wrapped up here?
I appreciate it, Jonathan. I like your van. It's very nice.
I like your van.
Yeah, we like your van.
Yeah, I'm in awe over those cabinets right now. I think my next build's gonna be
He's already planning
cabinets like those. Yeah. I'm like,
He's
yeah.
already
Don't get me wrong. I love my Adrian Steels, but that the fact that they're color coded to the van also is like super OCD for me.
They're
I like it.
color-coded.
I like it.
And they actually have the 3D images of the inside of the van. So the back of the cabinets actually
Contour?
follow the van.
Yeah, they contour. I saw that. Yeah, they contour the van. Yeah.
Which is fantastic. So you get, I know a lot of times when people put cabinets in, sometimes they have to push it off because of the thing. So this actually gives you that, you don't lose that 2 or 3 inches in the middle kind of thing. So
every inch counts, every square inch counts when you're doing that build
Yeah.
for sure. Yeah. And I really want to thank both of you for coming on, and all 3 of you for coming on and sharing, being willing to share. And I think this is that kind of changing now. I remember, like you were saying, Jamie, like the guy who taught me when I bought the business, he said when they were teaching him, the guy would put a rag over the lock as he was shimming it because he didn't want him to understand what lock shimming is, and they worked at the same company. Like, that's how bad it used to be. So I understand why there's a lot of people that are fluffed up with videos online. And really it comes down to what everybody's personal choices are. We can't be the locksmith police. I can't tell people what they can and can't post out there. I've just drawn my line in the sand. Most of my stuff's about installation and talking about things and how it works, not so much how to defeat it. So that's where I've drawn my line in the sand. But, there's a lot of information out there, and some of it's good, some of it's bad. And it's really just how it's used. You can say that about a firearm in the hands of a skilled professional and a sniper. It's going to save hundreds of lives and thousands of lives. In the hands of somebody who has bad and ill intent, it's going to take lives. And that's what information is. And it's just a matter of how it's applied and how it's used. So I wish people would think about that. You want a bunch of Instagram followers and stuff. That might come at the cost of somebody stealing something or doing something they shouldn't do, because we all know there's bad actors out there. But there's only so much we can do about it. And it's really focusing on ourselves. I personally feel that the best thing we can do against scammers is educate ourselves, become part of associations, stick together as an industry, help each other out, support each other, and support those positive things. Support those things that the scammers can't do. You want repeat business. You want to be educated. You want to go out there and support your fellow professional locksmith who is jumping through all the hoops and who is doing everything right. That's the best thing we can do. Put your face out there, get acknowledged, provide a professional service, and represent this industry as a professional. That is the number one thing that all of us can do, including you who's watching it right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And again, just to sort of tie in with that, anything in my opinion, anything that helps legitimize what you're doing to, like, in the eyes of a customer. It could be branding, it could be the vehicle, it could be licensing, it could be organizations that you belong to, anything that that requires an extra step or a little bit more work or a little bit more effort or whatever. I don't know why I feel so strongly about that, but so let's see. ALOA members, members of IAAL, let's see, NASTIF.
Whole nother subject.
Yeah.
Whole other podcast.
I'm just mentioning that.
Yeah, please invite me on that one. I would love to discuss that one.
There's a list. There's a list that wants to be on that.
Well, when you bring up the whole firearm situation, in the right hands, being able to use it and it's for good, and then in the wrong hands, it's bad. I asked the president at a NASTF meeting what tool was used to steal all the cars, and can you name one licensed locksmith that used one of those tools to purposely, knowingly steal a vehicle? And his answer was no. And I said, that's exactly my point. Yeah. Locksmiths are not stealing cars with these tools. Criminals are. Yeah. But we're being punished.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whole nother podcast.
I know, but that's my soapbox. And I told guys that I was going to bring it up because they all asked me, because they know I have no filter. But I'm like, I will bring it up to him and state and I am a member of NASTF. Sure. So, at least for the moment, if they once this podcast comes out due to their new rules, I may be banned, but
Oh no. Well, I can tell you that one of our other board members is also a member on there as well, and we are working to where at least ALOA and NASTF should come to the table, and we should have a conversation. And we should be talking to each other and understanding the situation better. I feel that I'm at a huge disadvantage to have that conversation because I don't do automotive work. So I don't know if I can do it justice, but I sure do know some people that can. And we will definitely have that conversation at some point in time.
I think it's needed, just like your comment about Google being a monopoly. It's the same. And when you have a monopoly, there is no other avenue, and I think that's something that needs to be addressed. But
one of these
I digress for another podcast. But I appreciate your time.
Let's set it up.
Jonathan, it was good seeing you. Great talking to you.
Yeah, absolutely. Good to see you.
I appreciate it. Thank you, Wayne. I'm sure this will get cut down because we're like 2 hours and 20 minutes right now.
We'll put the whole thing up. We'll put the whole thing up.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, listen. For people that want to watch it and that are tuned in, we have discussed actually some really good stuff, as opposed to the bloviating of how beautiful my van is, and look at the tiny sparkles of the twinkles that I have on it. There are a lot of good business points for guys that have vans to think about.
Yeah, sure. And that's the best thing we can do. And I want to acknowledge and thank everyone here, because you're taking 2.5 hours out of your day and time that you could have been doing invoicing, bill collecting, restocking, putting time into your van. You took that time and you put it here. Nobody's getting paid for any of this. We're donating this. We're doing it so that we can create some awareness in this industry and we can come together. And that's my mission. If nothing else, one of the reasons I think I was elected is because, if nothing else, I do a good job of trying to bring people together, and we are strong. We have a voice together, even if we have to put our differences aside, which is a huge factor. We have to put our own personal benefits and our own personal differences aside so that we can go after the greater good, and we can unite and we can come together and we can get those things done. Because as a voice together, they have to listen to us. We cannot be ignored. And that's what I'm here for.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
All right. If you see Jamie's classes, go ahead and take them. They're some of the best in the industry. Every time I go to a convention, everybody's talking about his classes. Land Rover, whatever he's teaching, soak it up, take it up. If you see Jonathan or anybody else at another convention, take time at lunch and go out and walk and see somebody else's van. Go take a look at it, see what they did, take bits and pieces, help support your fellow brother locksmith or sister locksmith, and help make this industry as good as it can possibly be. And together we can accomplish anything. Thank you so much. I appreciate everybody being here.
Thanks, Wayne. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Any last words, Jonathan?
I was just going to say, if you want to come by and say hi, come see us at the Best Key Supply vendor booth at ALOA 2026.
Cool.
I will be there also with Lock 50.
Cool. Yeah, we're all going to be in Vegas.
Picture. Can't wait.
Yeah, but that'll be a photo finish. Yeah, bring
there
both
we
of
go.
them in here. Check both of them out. Hope to see everybody there. Support your associations, local and national. Come out to the events, support the trade shows, support each other, and have a wonderful day. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks, Wayne.
Hey, guys.
Bye.
Bye-bye.